Selling art prints is the easiest way to offer art at a cheaper price point and make your art more accessible. And on top of that, it's the easiest way to create a passive income stream as an artist if you work with print-on-demand companies. And so in this video, I will give you 10 tips to make sure you can start selling your art prints online as a beginner. My first tip is to simply start. Way too many people underestimate how valuable the skill of starting actually is. Way too many artists think that they are not good enough yet. They are afraid of what their friends will think. They are afraid that they will not sell their art. And so as a result, they postpone on their dreams because they feel that they are not ready yet. Now the problem is that you will never feel ready, and that's okay. You don't have to feel ready. The thing about starting is that you don't need to be great in order to start, but you have to start in order to be great. Now, when it comes to starting, one of the first things you have to do is decide if you want to make signature limited edition prints or if you want to make mass production prints. And there are some pros and cons connected to each of those options. So let's quickly go over it. When it comes to the pros of mass production, there are a couple. First, you can print on a large variety of products like mugs, t-shirt and laptop cases and offer a lot of utility products to your customers. Second, you can work with print-on-demand companies that will do all the work for you, from printing the product all the way to packaging and shipping the product, meaning that this can become a very passive income stream over time. And third, you don't need to have an inventory of your art prints because those print-on-demand companies will print it on demand when your customers need it. And when it comes to the cons, the two main downsides to using print-on-demand companies is that you cannot sign your prints, which is a huge problem for fine artists. And by using print-on-demand companies, your prints will appear less valuable to the customer. And when it comes to selling limited edition prints, there are three main pros. The first one being that you can create a lot of scarcity, which is a great sales strategy that will create urgency and increase sales. The second one is that the scarcity around your art prints can, in some cases, inflate prices on the secondary market, which will boost demand of your art even more and then become somewhat of a vicious, self-fulfilling sales cycle in the long term. And the third pro is that you will be able to customize your art prints and sign them, which will increase the value of your art and therefore increase the profit margins that you can take on those art prints. Now, the downsides of this strategy is that you will likely need to buy your own printer and do all the printing yourself. This process will be much more time consuming since you not only have to print it all by yourself, but also do the packaging and shipping yourself, making it much less scalable than the mass produced option. Many artists complain about this and find that in the end, they cannot even make enough time anymore to make art when they choose this option. And so if you are a fine artist, you will likely have to invest in your own printer or work with a gallery that can offer those things, because signing your prints is essential in a situation like that. But if you plan to, or if you don't plan to make signed limited edition prints and you are thinking about building a passive income stream for yourself, then working with a POD company is going to be your best option. Now, if you're working with your own printer, my third tip is to check the colors of your printer in order to make sure that the blue is cyan and not like button blue, because you will need your like button blue to press the like button on this video, which helps out a lot with the algorithm. So thank you very much. When it comes to pricing your art, there are a couple of principles to take into account as well. First of all, you have to understand that people feel with their credit card. The more they pay for something, the more they value it. In other words, when you are selling your art, you cannot put your price points too low because you want your art to be perceived as valuable as possible. But at the same time, you cannot make the mistake of pricing your art too high just because you want to charge what you're worth or something. Because if your work is not selling, then your work is not selling, meaning that it's too expensive or that you're not doing enough marketing. The problem with most artists is that they simply gamble a price point. They don't know how to price their art and just throw a number at it and leave it at that. And that is just the wrong strategy. What I would recommend is to let the market decide your price points and see what people are willing to pay for your work. In other words, in the beginning, you want to look at what other artists who have similar careers to your career are charging for their art prints, and then price your art around those price points. Let's say you see another artist with a similar art career selling their prints at $100. Then what you have to do is you pick the following 5 price points. Price your work at $60, at $80, at $100, at $120, $140, and then drive, let's say, 5,000 people to those art prints at each price point and see how people behave. And then based on the market feedback, you decide which price point is giving you the biggest profits. The next thing you will have to decide in order to sell art prints is how you are going to drive traffic towards your art. There are many options, but the main ones at the moment are advertisement, SEO strategies, and social media strategies. Both social media strategies and advertisement strategies are pretty straightforward. And so we are going to talk about the SEO strategy, which is one of the most powerful and free ways to drive traffic at this moment. And so what are you going to do in a situation like that is you are going to write blog articles or YouTube content around keywords, and then in your articles or YouTube videos you will make your art available. Now the advantage here is that you will be building a brand as well as sell art, and in some cases, depending on the type of art you make and the type of keyword, you could potentially even get away with writing a cool product description and list it on sites like Etsy or Amazon without making any YouTube videos or blog articles. Now the downside is that this is not possible for all types of art, but only for art that is in line with particular keywords. I'm thinking, for example, about fan art. I'm thinking about art about dogs or cats, art around the viral theme like the presidency, Donald Trump, for example, at the beginning of his presidency, or prints from a particular area directed towards residents and tourists. Tourists generally like to buy something from the place that they visit, and art prints are ideal for that. And so depending on what type of art you make, SEO strategies can be a very powerful way to drive traffic. Now before you can do any SEO strategies and drive traffic towards your art, you will have to photograph your art in the first place. And when it comes to photographing your work, there are 2 options. You can either go for a scanner or for a camera. The scanner will give you the best image quality, but does that mean you have to go for a scanner? Well, I personally would not recommend buying a scanner, because investing in a camera will give you way more in return. If you invest in a camera, you will be able to use that camera for a lot of other purposes beside photographing your art. I'm thinking, for example, about making YouTube videos or Instagram pictures or travel vlogs or pictures of your cool, cute girlfriend or whatever. And so a good camera is going to give you much more in return than a scanner, and the difference in image quality will be barely noticeable and simply not worth it for beginner artists. I personally don't have a scanner and bought a high quality camera instead. I bought a Sony Alpha 7 with several Zeiss lenses, and I'm very happy with that purchase. If you're interested, there's a link in the description. Not sponsored, although between us, I would like to be sponsored. But, and this is very important, I would not recommend you to use this link as a beginner artist, because as a beginner, I would actually not recommend you to buy expensive camera equipment in the first place. If you don't have a camera, then just use your phone instead. Yes, the quality is going to be less good, but it is going to be more than enough to just start out. And it's better to start and test out if people are willing to pay for your art before you start to invest in expensive equipment. And so use your phone first, and then the moment you get some sales, start to invest in equipment. Now, before you take pictures, there's one more thing that you have to do, and that is to make sure you calibrate your computer screen, because you can make the best images of your art. You can edit them in the best way possible. If your computer screen is not calibrated, you will see that your test prints are not the same as the images on your computer, which will result in more testing than necessary, meaning that you will spend more money on paper, more money in ink for those tests. Money that you could have saved by investing in a calibration tool. I'm not sure how much it is. At this moment, I think it's $200, $300 for a calibration tool. I will link the one that I have in the description as well. And I can guarantee you that this is definitely going to save you money in the long run. But again, this is not a recommendation for beginners. First do it without a calibrated screen. Now I know what you're thinking. I already gave you 2 tips that are not for beginners, even though the title of this video clearly states for beginners. What can I say? I'm lying to you. You should not trust me. You should undo the like that you already gave on this video as some kind of punishment. Dat is echt wel Fucking weak ass joke. Jokes aside, after you took decent pictures, you will have to be able to present those pictures on your website or on the marketplace that you are going to use to sell your art. When it comes to presenting your art, there are a couple of things to take in mind. First of all, try to photograph everything that the customer will be getting. If the print has a mount or a frame, make sure you take pictures of that as well. Try to take pictures where the quality is visible. Make sure the texture of the paper, the mount, the frame is all visible. Also make pictures of the signature and the back of the artwork. Make pictures of the thank you notes that you will send and all of the extras that you might send with your art prints. And make sure that all the product photos look professional. People draw a lot of information from product pictures, so make sure everything looks perfect. No unnecessary things in the background. Make sure everything is lit properly, and make sure you include some interior shots as well. When it comes to interior shots, I would highly recommend to also use some mock-up template designs, but don't use the free ones, because you don't want art collectors who visit your website to see that you have the same mock-up images as somebody else. That will look very unprofessional, and so don't cut corners there. The mock-up design images that you can buy are very cheap anyway, and so just spend some money there. The next step is to simply ask and mention. Ask people every now and then if they need art prints, and mention every now and then that prints are available of your art. This doesn't have to be salesy or anything like that. A simple prints are available through the link in the description is perfect. And you can mix things up a little. In one post, you ask your audience on social media if there are particular paintings that they would want to see in print form, perhaps create a poll or something like that. And the benefit of this is that you both remind your audience that prints are available and get customer feedback and interaction from your audience. And on top of that, if some people answer that they would like to see a print of a particular artwork, then you can contact them again a couple of weeks later when those prints are available and hopefully make a sale. Now, how many times should you ask or mention that your work is available for sale? Well, there's no golden rule or something, but definitely more than once. Here's the thing, many artists just mention it once a year or once every 6 months, because deep inside they are afraid that nobody is going to buy their work, and subconsciously they want a way out. They want to be able to tell themselves something like, oh yeah, nobody bought it, but that's just because I didn't really try to sell it. If I would have tried, it might have worked. Now, this type of self-sabotaging is very common, and I myself have most definitely been affected by this in the past, but we all know that self-sabotaging your way to success is just not the right strategy. And so be aware of this. My next tip is to not force anything. Most artists, and I'm talking 100% about my past self here, think that their art needs to become their main source of income as quickly as possible. Now, the only reason they think that is because they are insecure. They think that if their art is not their main source of income, that they are not worthy enough, that they cannot call themselves an artist. Now, the problem with this is that your art will not be your main source of income in the first couple of years, no matter what you do. And that is just the way it is, and there's nothing to be ashamed about. And so what I would recommend is to search for a job that either gives you a lot of free time so you can use that free time and put it in your business, or a job where you will learn practical business skills that you can then later use in your art business. I'm thinking, for example, about sales or marketing positions, or working for a gallery, or doing some social media type of stuff. Things like that. Now, in order to make this video complete, we should probably make it as easy as possible for you to start, and the easiest way to start is through print on demand. And so we should probably be talking about the best POD websites to sell art prints, which printing facilities you should use, and how to generate sales with those websites. But that will be another 15 minutes, and frankly, a completely different video, and so I'm very sorry, but we are not going to do that predominantly, because I already did. It's called 6 Best Print-on-Demand Websites to Sell Art Prints Online. It's linked up, and you could be watching it right now. Hope to see you there. Ciao, ciao.